We're recording now. As we get going, welcome to Battle App session number 2. And my name is Todd Graham. We're going to be taking you through a couple of things this morning. We're going to be looking at the workbook for Battle Apps, starting to help you sort of start to fill that out. And we're going to be looking at customer problem identification and going through something that actually developed by Intuit, something called Design for Delight. And that's going to help you sort of identify a customer and help to fill out some of the other sections of the workbook. So let's get right into it. I'm going to share my screen here now, and I'm going to switch over to my slideshow. Now it won't let me. Hold on, I'm going to stop sharing there for a sec. There. Now we're going to start sharing again. Okay, wonderful. So we're going to start with just a little bit about the industry for apps or the environment for apps, and maybe what you can look to for a bit of inspiration. If you look online, you'll find that there's all kinds of listings for top apps. Just have a seat there anywhere. There's all kinds of listings. There's all kinds of websites. Feel free to go on the web, do some Googling, and have a look at what are some of the more popular apps. There's listings specifically for, excuse me, iPhone and Android. They're kind of two different environments. And this actually listing is, I think I captured this from last year. And it shows you've got, TMU on there, Minecraft, Google. If I go back again on the Apple side of things, TMU, Minecraft, Tinder, TikTok, all the common players are there. But if you go through the listing, you'll find a bunch of other, maybe different ones that you may not have thought of before, and you might find some inspiration in those. So do a little bit of Googling, have a look at top apps, have a look at what they do, maybe download some and play with them a little bit to get some idea. Again, there's lots of sites. This is just one of them, Sensor Tower, and they come up with just different specs and information and whatnot on apps. So please go do some research, have a look, maybe get some inspiration from that. And with that, you can start to ideate, come up with ideas, come up with what you want to do for an app, and you can begin sort of the process of doing some research and prototyping. I get asked a lot, within this whole process, and why I'm covering this now, how do you come up with a good idea? Well, the answer is to have lots of ideas. It's through that process of brainstorming and just coming up with even some crazy ideas. Like if you were to sit down and say, well, what's the dumbest idea I can think of today? It's a bit liberating, like to let yourself off the hook, so to speak, and release that pressure. Say, hey, I've got to come up with a really good app. Well, no, like, what's the dumbest thing you can come up with? Okay, like, oh, I'm going to come up with a video channel that plays videos for 20 seconds. How dumb is that? Well, turns out not that dumb. So brainstorm, spitball, write things down. Take a notebook, take sticky notes, write down your ideas. And you never know what might come back to you. What over time, you might see, I had that idea like 3 months ago, and like maybe that meshes with something that a friend of mine is doing, or this other new thing I found out about. So have a lot of ideas, write things down, and you'll find over time that you'll come up with a catalog of maybe some really interesting stuff. So with that said, I'm going to cover something here called Design for Delight. It's actually an Intuit process, or it's a version of something that Intuit kind of come up with. I'm going to go into this and then sort of lead into the workbook in order to show you where it's applicable. Yep.
So you ask questions side by side, or do you wait? Ask questions?
Oh, ask a question anytime you want.
So
yeah.
As you mentioned that to come up with a good idea is to come up with numerous ideas.
Yep.
And then to iterate. Then how do we finally settle on one idea?
That's a really good question. most of the lecturing and most of the teaching I do is actually in groups. So what happens is you get 4 or 5 people in a group. And what I do is I get them to literally take sticky notes and put them on the wall. So then what happens is you get 20, 30 sticky note ideas on the wall, and you start to sort of group them. Okay, so these 3 ideas, they're kind of in the same area. So these are collectively a cloud of similar ideas. And over here is collectively a cloud of other similar ideas. So you get some synergy with that. And then the next thing I'll often do is, okay, let's look at reward for effort, impact for how much effort you have to put in it. Which of these are easy to do? Which of these are hard to do? Which of these would have a massive amount of impact with our client demographic or audience? Which of these will only have a little bit of impact? At that point, you have to decide what your scope is probably. Like, am I going for a moonshot here? Am I looking for the biggest, greatest, world-changing idea? Or do I need to do something in the next 3 weeks? Okay. So what you do is you coalesce those little clouds of ideas and start to come up with identifying your customer, client, and their problem. Okay, drilling down into that. And in fact, you probably actually do that beforehand, but you sort of address your solutions, which ones actually most aptly fit the problem. And the problem is kind of what we're talking about here today. So I'll talk about that more in a minute. But does that help? Okay, yeah. I like that cloud idea, sticky notes and clouds and collecting things together, and then looking at the low-hanging fruit. Or do you want to go for a moonshot?
Since this is only an ideation contest,
yep.
So we can choose anyone, even a moonshot.
I'd love to see moonshots, yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure, yeah. There's no preference for big ideas or little ideas or moonshots or practical. No preference there. The way that this will work is who does the background, who actually does the research into the market, who identifies the customer and their problem most adequately, who looks at the marketability of it, yeah.
Yeah, but in case of a moonshot, it's very hard to do the background work. It's very
probably easier because there's so much data to work from. If you're looking at a world-changing idea, your market is the world, right? Google loves searches on the world. Google hates searches that are focused on New Glasgow or Mukto, or you know what I mean? Yeah, like the localized stuff is actually probably harder to really get data on. It's just my observation anyway. No, keep going. No, you have a question anytime. Okay, design for delight. So I'm going to skip through this, and then I'm going to pop back to the workbook and look at specifically what this addresses in the workbook. So as I said, this design for delight is a product of Intuit, and it's what they use in order to ideate and come up with features for their products. They make a product called Quicken, and they make a product called QuickBooks. So they're in the financial sector, but they've been really hitting a lot of home runs lately, and they're crediting this design for delight process. So the design for delight, actually, if you look at it, they have number one, like deep customer empathy. So they really do put themselves in the shoes of their customers. What pain do they have? What needs do they have? And then they turn to rapid experiments and going broad to go narrow. So they have a lot of ideas or a lot of solutions, and then they narrow it down. Sort of like what I just sort of answered your question with. You have a lot of ideas, group them, narrow it down. So that's their 3-stage process. We're going to be looking at mostly the customer empathy part and identifying problems here this morning. So deep customer empathy. Empathy means you really are putting yourself in the shoes of your customer. Like you want to feel what they feel, see what they see, observe, act, be in their shoes. Okay. And they have some tools for doing that. So empathy is the start of their process. Then they kind of get into research. They have something they do they call a follow me home. Now maybe that sounds creepy. Sounds like you're stalking someone, but follow me home, for them, it's a fast, easy way to observe people in their natural environment and understand the problems that they have. Not the problems they tell you they have, but the problems that you see they have. When you look at research, there's multiple sides of research, multiple ways of going about it. When you ask somebody something and you do surveys, that's research. The problem is you don't necessarily get honest answers. The example I always use is you say you're looking at a product that may be on nutrition or food or something like that, and you go out and you interview people, walk out into the street or into the hallway in a university and say, like, what's your meal routine? What do you eat? Oh, I'm a very healthy eater. I eat salads and lima beans, and I'm really conscious of my health. Wonderful. Write it down. Conscious of health. But then you walk home and you follow them home, and what do? They pick up a hamburger on the way home, and they have pizza when they get there, right? They're drinking and they're shooting Cokes and Red Bulls, right? See, often when you ask somebody something, they kind of tell you they give you an idealized version of themselves, what they want to project. When you see something, see it's what they do that really matters. So the idea of the follow me home is to see what they do, not just rely on what they tell you. So you get better understanding and insights rather than just interview or secondhand information. Okay, you get what they call YODA, your own data, not other people's data, not stuff that somebody wrote 10 years ago or what someone said on a street corner. Okay, you get what you actually get to see, your own data, YODA. And there's a cute Star Wars reference in there, so that makes it memorable. There's lots of ways to do these follow me homes. And if you look through corporate research, they do this quite a lot. I watched a video years ago. There was a video produced by PBS, and I forget the name of it. It was a marketing series they did. And they were looking at observing the behavior of teenagers. Okay, so they had these like different products, like I think one of the key products there was Sprite. Okay, Coca-Cola, Sprite. And I think MTV at the time was in the mix. They literally went home to a kid's bedroom and they sat there on the floor with the kid, and they said, "Hey, you got this poster on the wall," or "I noticed these shoes on the floor," or like your sports gear, like, "How come your room's so messy? How come your room is clean? Like, what do you do when you're in here? Show me what you're." And they watched and they observed. They were literally in the kid's bedroom. Now you can do this at that level. Maybe that might not be easy to do, but another way to do it these days I've seen done is actually do it by video. So you can video into someone's bedroom, and you can see their environment. You can ask them about, "Oh, your room. I see you got that poster on the wall," or "I see your bed's not made. What's your routine like? And do you brush your teeth?" And so the advent of this relatively new, like Zoom and Teams technology, where you can video conference and kind of literally get into someone's bedroom or kitchen or den or rec room or backyard, a whole lot easier sometimes. And that's all very valid. Like, you're actually seeing exactly what's going on. So I've come to respect the power of these follow me homes. So the key is to find real people in real contexts with real problems. And then they use this term pain or pain points. Okay, what causes them distress? Oftentimes these distresses come down to be emotional issues, and you start to really respect that side of things. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. So before we can solve someone's problem, we need to agree on and understand what the problem is we're solving. So what we need to do is come up with a very accurate and at its core identification of what the real problem is. There's often the difference between a real problem and a stated problem. Stated problems are, I can't lose weight. That's my problem. Well, maybe the real problem is an emotional reaction, like, "Oh, I don't feel good when I go out in public," or "I'm kind of embarrassed when I go shopping for clothes and I got to buy larger sizes." Like, there's actually some emotional underpinning there. Like, that's the pain that you're relieving, not the clothes that you have to buy. So really deeply understanding that helps you to develop, more solvent problems. So there's this neat tool that Intuit has, this customer problem statement. So it starts with I am, and then you pick a very narrow, very precise description of who your customer is. Okay, they're a grade 11 high school student, not just a student, a grade 11 high school student. Okay. They're not just a stay-at-home dad. They're a stay-at-home dad that got downsized from his company and he's decided to take the next 2 years off. Like you've got some very specific definitions of who you're actually solving the problem of. And then you're trying to do something. You got an outcome that you want, but there's a problem or a barrier. And then you got a root cause and then the emotional, the touchy-feely part. So to sort of put that in context, and I've just included a couple of options here. Like you wouldn't put you would do multiple of these because you would have multiple customer profiles. But I'm just giving you examples. So I am could be a stay-at-home dad, could be a high school student. Okay, could be someone who's a painter. They're an artist. Okay, so fairly specific. And I'm trying to. They got a problem. They're trying to find an exercise routine. They're trying to learn how to do web page design. They've got an aspirational goal, but something's keeping them from doing things. Okay, don't know where to start. I have no friends that are doing this. I don't have time. You get a lot of I don't have times and stuff like that, but those are there. Those might be reasons and/or excuses. You'll with research and follow me home, you'll find out. And then you get the because, which is the other part of the excuse. My kids have a busy schedule, or I'm not motivated to start, or and here's one, which makes me feel, right? You get that, because there's the pain you're really alleviating, okay? Which makes me feel what? Now, the one thing I'll say about that is the first thing people put down is makes me feel anxious. Yeah, okay, it makes you feel anxious. Everything makes you feel anxious. Okay, so yeah, throw it in there, but that's not the only, come up with a better makes me feel than just saying anxious, okay? And really kind of dive deep into this, and that's where you get that's where you actually get, you can actually pull at someone's needs in order to solve their problem. With the follow me homes, with the customer identification, interviews are good. Interviews are really good, and in fact, I like when you get groups of people together, small groups of people, and they kind of jibe off each other a little bit. Someone will spark someone's interest or cause them to remember something, and then they'll say something new. So you get these focus groups, informal or formal, and you'll learn a lot if you just listen. Okay. And you learn to ask open questions in around subjects, hopefully not leading them to your biases and what you think is going to happen, but really listening to what they're saying. And it's often good to do this within the frame of where the problem is happening, so to speak. It's one thing to say, what was your biggest problem when you were in grade 12? Well, for most of us, grade 12 was more than a few years away, right? So what I remember might have been my problem in grade 12 is not the same as actually being in grade 12, okay? Leaving class and sitting down with a student saying, hey, well, what was your problem with this? What's your problem in life right now? What are you experiencing? What are you feeling? And don't be afraid to get personal. Ask really deep questions. And then you want, ideally, to create this ideal state. So if everything works out, what does the future look like? Okay, what is this impossible outcome that you think can't happen that you'd love to have happen? Okay, and that becomes your target. That becomes your idealized state where you're working towards getting someone to that position. So in a perfect world, what would happen? Okay, the biggest benefit for me in that situation is X, Y, Z. And it's going to make me feel how would you feel? We're back to that emotional component now. I can't emphasize enough that emotional component because that really is a core to, I think a lot of what I find in a lot of situations, people's emotions, they have levels of fear. So anxiety is one thing, fear is another, and identifying exactly what's making them fearful or anxious, that leads you further down the path to solving the problem. So these slides will all be available. These slides will all be available online, and you can kind of review them a little later on. You can watch this video. Just to sort of give you an idea of that, I'm going to just kind of switch over quickly to show you where. There we are. So on the team site, which hopefully you've got an invite for, you're going to find this team site with resources from this year, and I'll be adding these slides to those resources. I've also kept up some of the resources from last year, so there's some video and stuff from there. Last week's video is actually posted below, and when we're finished this, you'll be able to hopefully get that video downloaded for those of you that aren't live here online or in the room, and I'll be doing this each week. So I'll email those out, but I'll also have them as a repository here on this Battle Apps website, on the team site, so you can refer to that as well. So now what I want to do is I want to have a look at the workbook and look at exactly where what I just talked about fits into the workbook. So the workbook, again, you should have a copy of. If you don't, let me know. I'll get you a copy. It is downloadable, and there we go. It is downloadable from that site as well. So you should have this workbook, and I'm just going to kind of poke on through it a little bit. The first page of the workbook, standard stuff, name, address, phone number. Please fill that out. And then the subject of today's lecture is page 2, effectively. So we've covered page 2. So what's the problem your future customer is experiencing? So when you build this app, okay, the person that's going to use it, what is their problem? Okay, and this is where you can apply that follow me home, where you can think about what their pain is, and how does your app solve this problem? So you're going to identify that, and I want you to be concise. I want you to be short. In fact, I think these fields are limited to a couple of lines. I like to quote Mark Twain. I apologize for not writing a longer letter. No, I apologize for the length of the letter. I didn't have time to write a short one. It actually takes a lot more time to really think about what you're trying to say and get it down into a concise package. And I'm asking you to do this here. So what's the problem, and how does your app solve this problem? What's the benefit of this product or your app to your customer? And these are all riffing on each other. They're kind of growing. What does your customer want? There's wants and needs. Okay. Think about how it makes them feel. Think about what it actually accomplishes for them. And 5 and 6 are the same. We'll have to revisit that. I know it might have been a different question there, but we'll go with this for now. So there's a version of the customer problem statement in here. So I am blank, and I'm trying to blank, but blank because blank, which makes me feel. Feel free to take a Word document to open up and start typing these out. Try on different customer problem statements for size. In fact, you should make multiple customer problem statements. But I'm just asking for one here. So find the best of them that you think is most representative. Again, be specific and identify what the net feeling of that person is, trying to put yourself in their shoes. The next part talks about the business model and market, and we're going to talk about that in another lecture. But what I wanted to, I'm just going to scroll through a little bit, and we're going to get to I guess page 3 and page 4. So this is sort of a customer identification and demographics page, and it's fillable to the point that you can put in some specific things: age, gender, occupation, marital status, ethnicity, hobbies, one-liners, okay? And a customer description. Here you can get a little more verbose, okay? You can talk about the customer, their lifestyle, Their favorite products and brands. We naturally put ourselves in tribes dependent on the brands that we use, okay? iPhone versus Android, boom, you're in a tribe, okay? Toyota or General Motors, boom, you're in a tribe, okay? Starbucks, Tim Hortons, boom, you're in a tribe, okay? What are your products? What are your brands? You can actually build a profile of someone. Unfortunately, we're actually kind of predictable as human beings. Okay, a lot of these things end up going together. Attitudes and opinions. Again, like you're getting more into, you know, what are their feelings on social causes? What's their feelings on the economy? What are their feelings on lifestyle? Again, short phrases, quick descriptions, build a bit of a profile. And again, an opportunity to expand upon the pain or problem that they sort of feel in the world. Now, there's actually 2 forms for this. Feel free to fill them both out. And you're going to sort of flesh out this idealized customer. When this is done, actually, what they do in larger companies or for customer research, political research, they give people a name. Okay, so that they come up with a profile, and that person is Karen. Okay, now you all know what a Karen is, right? Like, for example, if I asked you, how old is Karen? Yeah. Okay, but what would But what how old? Okay. How old is Karen? Okay, so Karen's 33. I'd put that in the young side of Karen, but Karen's definitely not 16. Right? And Karen's also not 85. Okay. So I asked you, how old is Abraham? How old is Abraham? There we go. Abraham is 100 years old, right? So they build these profiles, and then they kind of package them together, and they kind of give them a name, okay? Because it sort of typifies or stereotypical of that segment, essentially. I used to do some work in politics, and they had Zoe. Zoe was a first-time voter. She was 20 years old. She was going to university, had a part-time job. Like, that was Zoe, right? Karen, middle-aged mom. Like, okay. It's kind of a cute thing to do, but it's a quick way to reference, certain demographic types. So I'm getting you to imagine your demographic type of your end user here. And help envision who they are a little bit, okay? So that's my lecture for today. We've covered a couple of pages in the book, and I'm going to make this video available. Should be recording, hopefully. Are there any questions either online or in the room here on anything that we've covered so far? Shoot.
First, wait for the other guys to ask their questions.
They have questions. Well, go right ahead and ask a question. They'll chime in.
Okay. So, first.
We have a list.
Because I already tried it out for the past week, so I have some of them in here, but I wrote some of them in case I forgot. Okay. So, first, deep probing interviews.
Yeah.
It was brought up in today's lecture.
Yeah.
Not lecture, but conversation, I guess, or session. So I've tried to ask different people some questions regarding this in order to come up with an idea. And so far, the answers that I've got are fairly shallow.
Yep.
Yeah, because I asked a girl, what's her comment? What's a very deep problem that's troubling her? She said, I want to lose weight.
Yeah.
I asked a Chinese guy, he wants to learn English.
Yeah.
And if I ask someone else, they need a dating app or they need help with their studies.
Okay. So, and I'm not sure if everyone can hear because of the microphone, but you've asked people, they come up with relatively broad, shallow answers. Things like, I need help studying, I need help losing weight, dating, travel, learning English. Okay.
So so in that case, And it's very difficult to ask someone, I mean, to allow me into their bedrooms or into their personal lives. It may be possible once I've actually narrowed down and I have a particular person or segment of demographic in mind, but early on, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So first question, how should, I mean, what am I doing wrong?
Well, you're not doing anything wrong. First of all, you understand what the questions are at this point. Like maybe
I asked one question. Okay, I'll tell you the question that I asked.
Yeah.
If I could do, I mean, what's the one problem that you would just throw money at me for, like $10 or $100,
Yeah.
that I could solve for you
Okay.
right now? What's the one problem that is troubling you very,
Yeah.
very much that if I could just take away
Yeah.
from you, you will give me $100 right here, right now?
So, I mean, again, what's that broad question? My gut feeling is whatever they're going to say is very superficial and they're probably lying to you. When I say lying, it doesn't mean they're like trying to be intentionally deceptive. It just means that I often say the first person you lie to is yourself. You're really not being honest about. So that's where the follow me home comes in. Now, I have to be, in all fairness, I mean, this is an extracurricular university activity. You've got all kinds of stuff to do. You're not an expert in research. If you were working for Coca-Cola, you would be studying this for years and become an expert in research and follow them home. Like that would be your job, right? I understand this is not your job. You probably can't follow a student into their dormitory or residence or, or can you? Okay, transportation. Can you ride the bus? Boom. Right now, so there are little things you can do there. Is it uncomfortable asking someone to go into that deep a resolution? Yeah. Ooh, there we. But what are you feeling? Like talking about anxiety before, right? And fear. Like remember I said a lot of problems come down to how things make how situations make people feel. You're actually experiencing that now. If you're working in a company and your job is sales, you got the phone or email, probably email is easier, but you got the phone in front of you, I'll say phone, and you got to pick that up and call people. Oh, that makes me, because they might say no. Oh, when they say no, I don't feel good. It's like they don't like me, and I want people to like me. So that's going to cause, so what you're experiencing now is kind of a form of that. Within the context of this exercise and this competition, I understand you've got classes and things going. So yeah, you're not going to dedicate your life to literally sitting in someone's bedroom. If you're working for a big company, you'd be sitting in someone's bedroom. That's where you're going to get the real information. The best advice I can give you at this point is get as close to that as often as you can. And the other thing I would say is try to park your own preconceptions and actually watch what's going on. That's difficult to do too. We all come in with a series of biases, our own biases, and that's just natural. It's difficult sometimes to overcome your own inclinations, your own belief system, your own I think the problem is this, when really it's another issue that someone is actually experiencing. By watching that, sometimes you can see things. It's shocking what you can see just by watching a scenario. So if there is a problem with studying, go to the library, watch people study. That might be, again, that low-hanging fruit, fairly easy. People are having a problem with transportation, put yourself on the bus, watch people get on the bus, talk to people on the bus. Right? And again, get that little queasy feeling in your stomach, but that is part of research. That is getting your own data, Yoda. Next question. Or is there another question online? Maybe I'll just turn to, got a couple people online. Feel free to chime in. Okay, back here. Question? You're new. Okay, we'll let you absorb all of this for a little bit. We'll go to another question here from.
So that was when I tried to target the general audience, other students here.
Okay.
Right?
Maybe I should. There's one other thing I'll add to that though. Yeah. A lot of people start with themselves as their ideal customer. Okay, so I have this problem. I think this is an issue. I wish I had this. My ideal state is I wish this could happen. That's valid. But then what you got to do is see if that's indicative of other people. So that's where you get back into the research again.
I
Yeah,
can
but
try
so
that.
you are an ideal customer.
Yeah.
That's valid.
Next
Yeah.
time I will try. But now there are two other segments. First, as we discussed, is the idea.
Yep.
I'll get into that later. But second, more importantly, if let's say I want to come up with a solution for an industry.
Yeah.
It's an industry-specific solution.
Yeah.
Pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
Or let's say for steel manufacturing companies.
Yeah.
But then it's very hard to talk to your ideal customer.
Yeah.
And
so if I could, again, just to, in cases like that, what I like to find is a content expert. So no man is an island, no woman is an island. You can't do things alone. Okay. All the great companies were founded by two people. You know, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak. Like there are multiple people involved, and what happens is they share duties, they share team efforts. So what I may suggest is teaming with someone. So what you find is someone who has a technical ability teaming up with someone who's a content expert in an industry that might be teaming up with someone who's got marketing skill. Okay, Airbnb was 3 people. So find that team. I like those linear solutions. I call them linear solutions just because they kind of follow a path. They're very, because the customer is very defined. And the problem in a lot of cases is they're doing things the way it's always been done. And you've got a brand new way, a brand new technology, a brand new process you can bring to that. So if you can save an employee with, or save a company with 300,000 employees, 2 minutes a day per employee, that's worth a lot of money to them, so to speak. I kind of like those. And that's where you're getting out, I guess, into the bigger world, but within a segment. You know, maybe it's the automobile industry. Okay, maybe it's the farming industry. There's literally something there that is causing pain, eating up cycles, and you can save them money, or increase their product quality, help them reach out to customers more effectively. Like there's something you can do. Content expert. That's your solution there. Teamwork, content expert.
Third, regarding moonshot ideas.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, there are world-changing ideas. Your target customer could be potentially every person on the planet,
yeah,
depending on your idea. But then it's very hard to come up with a profile. And not only that, again, because these ideas are so big, let's say climate change, or let's say democratizing AI, or let's say anything which is very big, how do you talk to, again, your customer or content? Again,
okay, so
at the very cutting edge of the field.
Okay, so here's the answer to that. Ignore everything I just said. Okay. Henry Ford once said that if I asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Okay. So a lot of what I've been talking about today, design for delight, design thinking, that's sort of a rigorous process. And there's a couple of other methodologies that you can go through. There's a few other things that I've been working on lately and doing some reading on, and I like parts of this and I like parts of that. There are times when you just got to walk out onto the ledge. And is it a scary place to be? Yeah. Are you probably going to fall mercilessly to your death? Pretty much all the time. But the times when you don't, you do change the world. So there is something to be said for raw energy and enthusiasm and having just the right idea. There's so many companies that if you asked an expert, they would have said, "Oh, that'll never work." I'll give you like Uber, SpaceX, Uber. Oh, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go and get in strangers' cars. Well, what kind of a dumb idea is that? Right? What kind of a person is going to throw money? Like, you've been brought up since a child saying, beware of strangers, stranger danger, don't get in stranger people's cars. Except it works, doesn't it? So on paper, Uber is a dumpster fire that just happens to work. So if you really think you can change the world, Yeah, it's valid. Now understand that's a risky environment. It's also high reward, risk, reward. I often say another one of my favorite quotes is experts built the Titanic. If you follow all the rules all the time, you're going to get an average result if you're lucky, hopefully not the Titanic. So as much as I can talk about this process, I cannot ignore the fact that there is a value in following your dreams. And it might work out. It's a lottery. It's lightning in a bottle. But sometimes it works. And I'm gonna cut it there just because I wanted to keep these in under an hour. I'm going to put this video up online, and anyone I'm going to email this out to all the participants, and you can watch the video. Please feel free to email me with any questions. I'll try to answer any questions within the group setting. So that's where we are for today. Thanks for joining us. This will be up soon, and we'll see you next week, same time, 11:30 Tuesday. Thanks.